recording. So welcome everybody. We are here in our Mindful Monday session. This happens every first Monday of the month at 9 a.m. And this is an intersectionality between mindfulness and climate work. Many of you know me. My name is Nikyta Palmisani. I'm part of the Terra.do instructor team. I'm also an eco-psychology practitioner and a mindfulness instructor that I've been teaching yoga and mindfulness the last 25 years. And so I'm really interested in how do we come together in a sangha, in a group of like-minded practitioners. How do we use mindfulness for our own personal edification and moving toward enlightenment? And how do we also bring that to our climate work? And so these sessions are a braid of community building, so coming together in like-minded groups, and also skill building. So I always bring a different skill or focus to you, and then the actual practice. And so they're a braid of all three of those things. I usually start off with an introduction, which we're doing right now, and introducing ourselves and each other. Then we move into an overview of the practice, why we're doing it, how it relates. We'll do the practice itself, and then the last bit of it is usually about questions, reflections, sense making, coming together. So I'm so glad all of you are here, and there may be more people who continue to join, but you can see that there's a lot of expertise and climate work in the room from, moral injury experience from climate workers, Vendus fellows are here. That's our Vendus fellows in the Learning for Action program are graduating this week. So really exciting. And our past Yukaris cohort, regenerative agriculture focus. So great. Another Vendus focused on climate communication and storytelling. Yeah, Tapier's cohort is in the house, which was 3 cohorts ago. We're coming up on our Wiley's coming up here now. And so we're going to move into a little bit of overview. So I'm glad all of you are here, and you can see that there's a lot of expertise in the room. And before we get going, does anybody have any questions or things that they want to bring forward before I start linking us together? And you can always add questions into the chat or thoughts into the chat as well. All right, sweet. So and what I want to do today is going to be a little bit more information heavy and a little more practice heavy than these sessions sometimes are. I've been bringing forward the inner development goals. And I'll have a slide about this in just a moment and cover them. So the UN developed the Sustainability Development Goals. You may have heard about these, right? Ending poverty, ending hunger, really working on climate. And then there's been this lag in uptake. And a lot of us who work in inner change making from a lot of different levels, from psychology to behavior change to coaches, to mindfulness instructors, we're looking and questioning what is inhibiting the uptake of the Sustainability Development Goals? Why aren't we acting on these better? And so a large group of people from around the world who are focused on inner change making said, I think these need to be paired with inner development goals, that there needs to be active skill building that is paired with the inner change making that becomes the fuel and the motivation for the outer action. So the IDGs, the inner development goals, are paired directly with the SDGs, the sustainability goals. And these are a set of 25 skills that were identified by having 3,000 different surveys from around the world where people were saying, what do we really need to be focused on? And out of those surveys collated, first it was 23 skills, and then they've decided to make it 25. And then how do we bring these skills into action? So I am going to share my screen with you and go over those IDGs for just a moment here. So these are the 5 areas that they said, these are the real areas that we need to activate people into. So being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and then acting. And you can see that all of the skills that are in our being bit, right? That relationship to self, are very directly related to our mindfulness practice. So I've been using these Mindful Monday sessions to bring forward one of these skills at a time and practices that pair with them. So this is the 4th in these this arc of sessions. So the first one was around our inner compass. Then we worked with how do we integrate integrity and authenticity into our own development, our own mindfulness practices. Last month, we worked with an openness and learning mindset, which anyone who's familiar with mindfulness practice, we know beginner's mind that comes from the Zen tradition is a hallmark of what the kind of curiosity that we bring to any of our work that we do. Today will be focused directly on self-awareness, and there couldn't be one, I think, that is more mindfulness based, right, than self-awareness, because that really is the goal of most mindfulness practices. So it's the ability to be in reflective contact with one's own thoughts, feelings, and desires, and to have a realistic self-image and the ability to regulate oneself. That's how the IDGs um, identify and define self-awareness. If we were using self-awareness in a mindfulness framing, it might have different language, but this is the language taken directly from the IDGs. And then next month, we'll be working with presence. So the other four areas, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting, we'll be touching on in different kinds of groupings. I won't be as focused with one each because some are more applicable than others, but we'll be moving through these IDGs as we move through our Mindful Monday sessions. But today is really about this self-awareness. And I'd like to bring in the framing of the hands, head, and heart framing that many times climate work uses, right? So how do we get our mind, our cognitive thinking, how do we get our emotional body or our heart, and how do we get our hands, our ability to act, all aligned? And I wanted to give a kind of sampler of practices that can be used in sequence that I thought might be most both applicable and able to be inserted into everyday life, right? So that you can be honing your skills of self-awareness in action in ways that might really assist whatever climate work you're doing, from storytelling to psychology to regenerative aquaculture. Dan, I love that phrase, aquaculture. So I put them together into this kind of triad of, and it's going to start in the body, and then we'll move into some quiet sitting, which often brings forward the self-reflection of mind and sometimes the emotional body as well. And then we'll be moving it into action. And the action will be based in walking meditation or Thich Nhat Hanh's everyday chore meditations. So how do you turn something that you do every day from an everyday thing into a mindfulness practice? So that will be our arc for today. We'll be pretty, as I said, pretty practice oriented. And I'll be using one slide for each of them as we go through. And then we'll have some ability to ask questions and to reflect and to do some sense making about how does this relate to our climate action? How could you see self-awareness increasing and improving climate action in our communities? So where do you see the crossovers? So feel free to do that. Oh, and a big hello to Brooke Sutter, who's one of our Mindful Monday hallmarks. Brooke teaches a lot of work from the Presencing Institute of Theory U. Otto Scharmer helped found the Theory U practice. And so next month with Presence, we're really going to be referencing Theory U. So hello to Brooke if you're watching this recording. All right, everyone. So what you're going to do is we'll be pretty settled for the first two practices. And then the third practice, you'll have the ability to walk, to go do an action. And I'll guide you into what that looks like. And then you can either take that out or come back. So if you find yourself needing to move and wiggle the first practice and the third practice will give you some practice to move. So, all right. And if you have any questions, always feel free to put them into the chat window as we go through. So the first practice we're going to do is a body scan meditation. So you may or may not be already familiar with this word called interoception. So you might be familiar with the idea of proprioception. Proprioception is your body's ability to know where it is in space, that you have this amazing ability to know, okay, I've got a couch that's just a few feet ahead of me. I've got an object behind me. This is the texture of what I am standing or sitting on. It's your body's proprioception is your body's amazing ability to be able to, like, if you were going to step on a slug, for instance, the texture of that object and the gooiness and the roundness or warmness of it, your foot would know immediately, oh, that's, you know, that's something that's got a weird texture, your body would react before your mind even knew it, right? So your proprioception um, is this amazing ability of your body in space. Interoception is that same amazing ability to know on multiple levels your own internal functions, right? So interoception is the felt sense of the body from within, but it's not just physical sensations. It's also your ability to link your emotional awareness to your body's sensations. So, from an interoceptive place, you might not just notice, okay, my fingertips are feeling cool, and we'll do a whole body scan in just a moment. My shoulder is feeling tight, but you might also notice I'm feeling a little anxious. I'm feeling constricted in the chest. I'm feeling a sense of my heart racing, or I'm feeling a real deep kind of depressive sluggishness. So interoception is more than just physical sensation. It's also our emotional internal well-being and how that relates to our direct physical body. So we'll be starting here. I find that starting in a body is a good way to bring yourself present. And if you're new to mindfulness practices, also a nice time to like move and stretch and wiggle. And I call it the creature of the body. Tend to the creature of the body so that you can settle yourself in preparation for what we'll be doing today is a seated practice, a seated zazen practice, very traditional mindfulness-based practice that's a little bit more still. So sometimes it's nice to have the capacity to move a little. So we'll be doing this body scan meditation where we'll be starting at the top of our head and moving all the way down. So go ahead and let yourself get comfortable and get seated or reclining or standing. You're welcome to be in any shape that you can hold for the next about 10 minutes-ish, 10, 12 minutes that we'll be here. And you're welcome to turn off your camera if you'd like. You're welcome to leave your camera on if you'd like, either way. And so slowly begin by bringing your attention to your breath. The breath is tangible, it has sensation, and it is immediate. The in-breath is only the in-breath, and the out-breath is only the out-breath. Continue to notice the breath from the inside out. And we're going to begin now our body scan meditation, starting at the crown of the head. So letting the breath continue to be slow and deep, begin to notice your head. Begin to notice the sensations. Potentially the eyes might be closed. Notice if there is any tension in the face, in the brow, softening whatever tension can be softened. And if it's helpful for you, as I said before, to move this aspect or part of your body, especially if you haven't had a chance to move, that's another nice way to bring added information and added release into the body is as we're doing the body scan, really letting yourself have permission to move, to wiggle, as I said before, to bring the creature of your body, the animal of your body, very present. Animals don't usually censor their own movement, right? If they need to stretch and move, they simply do it. So giving yourself permission to be in your creaturely body. And as you do so, continuing to notice where there might be tension that can be softened in the head, moving into the jaw. And you can feel free to move the jaw around or just simply soften it. Notice the tongue in the mouth. Softening the tongue. Noticing the skull, the scalp, the base of the skull. Noticing how the skull inserts into the spinal column. at that occipital ridge or occipital region. And your top 7 vertebrae are your cervical spine. So noticing the head and the neck. This is a very common place for many of us to hold tension. So just letting yourself release any tension that might be there, or gently moving the head and the neck, softening it. And noticing how that leads down into the shoulders. Many of us carry our holdings in the neck and the shoulders, so perhaps letting the shoulders move, noticing what that movement, what signals that brings you. Feeling the shoulders as they soften, feeling the arms. And if you'd like to move the arms in any direction, stretch out the arms, feel free to do so. Might be nice to roll the shoulders in, roll the arms in, roll the hands out. Can sometimes be a nice stretch. Letting the arms stretch out in space or even upward. Noticing the joints from the shoulders down to the elbows. Perhaps letting the forearms and elbows move as you notice that joint, that movability from the elbow out, upper arm and lower arm. Moving down into the wrists, the joint of the wrists, and letting the hands move. Maybe the fingers stretch out, the hands stretch out. Many of us who do a lot of typing might be very tight in the hands and wrists. And then potentially after that movement, letting the shoulders, arms, and hands settle into stillness and noticing the sensations in those areas of the body. Moving the awareness now from the shoulders down into the chest. Continuing to notice the rise and the fall of the breath. And now really noticing the sensations of where in the upper chest there is movement. And if at any point moving or wiggling or rolling the chest in a circle or in a back and forth direction might be helpful to articulate the middle part of the spine, the moving from the cervical spine, the top 7 vertebrae, now into the thoracic spine, the middle part of the spine, feeling the ribs, the back body, the side body, in the trunk of the body, the torso. As you continue potentially to move or staying in stillness and just deepening your inner awareness, you might move from that articulation of breath deeper in, deeper still into the heartbeat. The heartbeat is not only felt in the chest, you might also feel it in different parts of your body as you tune into it. Sometimes it's possible to notice in the throat, in some other part of the body. Sometimes I feel my heartbeat in my legs or calf, in the hands or fingers. So just noticing where you might feel your heart beating. You might be able to notice many areas simultaneously. And then moving from this area of breath and heart, moving down into the belly and the gut, the felt seat of our emotional bodies. Feeling the solar plexus, that space just below the ribs but above the belly button, the power of the breath as it opens, as it slowly softens with the out breath. feeling into the abdomen. You're welcome to move this low part of the body if that's helpful for you. You're welcome to feel into the belly and the stomach area. And in the back part of the body, this relates to our lumbar spine or our low spine, right? All the way down to the tailbone. You might also feel into your hips and pelvis. Letting any part of that low mid body move, wiggle, add information through movement and sensation. Before you let yourself come and meet those who've been in stillness, in that place of dynamic stillness and awareness, as we move from the musculature, the skin, the bones, into our felt sense of the organs themselves. So you might begin to feel into your felt sense of the internal organs in your abdomen. Sometimes you can feel in a sense of how the stomach is, whether there's pangs of hunger or fullness. Feeling into your sense of your digestive body, right, as it moves through the processes of digestion, moving down into the lower abdomen, into the processes of elimination. More subtle and advanced practices might be feeling into the detoxifying aspects of our internal organs, the kidneys, the liver, the filter organs. Just taking a moment to feel in, to tune into those parts of us that often give us information and sensation and can be deeply affected by our emotional body. So, noticing if there's any emotional information that arises from this belly and gut area. And that can be true of every area that we are moving. It's not only isolated in this area, but there's a direct correlation between our emotional body, our vagus nerve activation, and the ways that our belly and gut processes, digests, tenses, and relaxes in relation to our emotional body. So, finding a sense of stillness and ease as you continue this body scan down from the pelvis into the thighs, the hip creases. If you're seated, you might notice that bend in the hip crease from the pelvis to the thighs. And noticing the three-dimensionality of the upper leg, right? From the thigh, the quadricep, the outside IT band or edge of the thigh to the hamstring, the back of the thigh, those large muscle groups. You're always welcome to move, wiggle, stretch, engage, or extend, or contract these parts that I'm naming here as we move through this body scan. Moving into the joint of the knee, the awareness of the knees, front, back, and side. Moving from the knees into the calves, shin bone, down into the ankles, perhaps letting there be movement in the ankles. That joint that connects the leg to the feet. And moving your proprioceptive awareness all the way down into the interoception of the inside of your feet. Maybe wiggling toes, all those tiny little articulate joints in the feet, the toes. the ankles. And then noticing if there's anything else that any movement, any directionality that the entire body needs to feel like it can settle fully. If you've located tension that might be still lingering in the body, take a moment or two more here to just tend to the body, feeling from within, but responding with movement if needed, until you can feel yourself settle. And settling yourself now as we move into our seated meditation. This can also be done reclining or standing, just to mention, but it is coming from a place of stillness. And this stillness isn't empty. This is a stillness that is full of attention. So there are many forms of zazen, but there is one very traditional form, which is a simple counting of the breath. The counting doesn't matter. It's not. It's not a competition, and it's a circular kind of counting. For beginning practitioners, we recommend that you just simply count to the number 4 and then start again at 1. So I'll be leading you through this Zazen meditation. If you have another kind of seated meditation you'd prefer to engage, you're welcome to do that now. Or if you have a more advanced Zazen practice and you like to count to 10, which is the most traditional form, and then start again at 1, you're welcome to do that. And as I said, it's always circular, meaning that if at any point you notice your mind wanders off, you notice that you have a distracting thought, you just simply come back to 1 and start again. And when you reach 4, for our example today, you'll just start again at 1. So the posture is stable, the seat is grounded, the spine is tall. The hands might be resting in the lap or in a mudra. The eyes can be closed or softly opened with a gaze lowered a few feet ahead of you. The breath is natural and easeful. And the goal here is to allow the witness part of your mind to come forward. The witness simply observes without judgment, without critique, from a place of compassion. And the witness is noticing what happens. It's the mind noticing the mind. So this is where we come into deep self-awareness and reflection of patterns of mind, but without moving into the analysis. It's just simply a witnessing and letting go. You can imagine the thoughts are like clouds moving across the frame of sky, and you're just simply noticing the cloud and letting it go, letting it pass on, as if across the sky and disappearing. So, with that anchored focus of just simply bringing your curious beginner's mind to noticing the mind itself, we're going to move now just into a 5-minute quiet meditation. I'll start you off with the counting. I'll give you an instruction, and then we'll move into 5 minutes of seated quiet in practice. And then we'll be able to move more deeply into our walking and moving meditation. So go ahead and exhale all the breath here. And then you'll inhale and think 1. Exhale, think 1. Inhale, think 2. Exhale, 2. Inhale, 3. Exhale, 3. Inhale, 4. Exhale, 4. Coming back to 1. Inhale, 1. Exhale. 1. Inhale. 2. Exhale. 2. Inhale. 3. Exhale. 3. Inhale. 4. Exhale. 4. Coming back to 1 and moving now into 5 minutes of quiet, just practicing this pattern. If at any point you notice yourself counting 5 or 6, always come back to 1 and beginning now. Finishing your last cycles of breath here. And without any judgment, just taking a moment to let the witness aspect of your mind notice the quality of your mind today. So just deepening our understanding by allowing a few qualities to come forward. So is the mind distracted, still, ruminating, sharp, clear? So just noticing what kind of state of mind you brought forward or noticed in your meditation without any judgment, just simply as an act of building inner awareness. And just taking a breath or two more here now to notice what you've noticed. And then beginning to flutter open the eyes. I just want to make sure if anyone had any questions about our Zazen meditation or practice or things that arose for you that were questions or curiosities, feel free to add them into the chat here so that as we move into our next and third and final process, if you had any questions or curiosities, I can address those at the end of our practice when we all come back together to talk and reflect and share. So feel free to put any curiosities or things that, if anything arose that you had a curiosity about, add it into the chat. And then we'll do a third and final practice now, which is coming from Thich Nhat Hanh's meditation in motion. So this is very much how do you bring mindfulness into your everyday, right? So mindfulness into what's often considered the hands, right? So I love this quote about Thich Nhat Hanh: wash the dishes to wash the dishes. So he would teach that we do not clean up in order to be finished. We wash the dishes as if it was the object of our full attention, alive to the warm water, our own breathing, the action of it. So you're welcome to do any everyday chore. And the idea is that there's so many things to focus on when doing an action, but this is a place where we often get very distracted or can be somewhere outside of the action itself in our future thinking or our planning or strategic thing, but you're not actually focused on the thing you're doing. So you're welcome to choose an everyday chore that you might want to do. And this will also be a fairly short 5-minute meditation. I'm going to guide through a walking meditation that has an eco-psychology embeddedness to it, right? So there's a lot of different walking meditations that are possible. I'm going to guide through one that brings you awareness of the place where you are. So as a way, a walking meditation is a way to connect with the placehood of where you are. So I just want to invite you now to either perhaps choose to go and do a calling that feels like, yeah, I have dishes, or I want to fold the laundry, or I would like to walk outside with my own thoughts. So I just want to invite you now to set a timer for yourself. We'll come back at 50 minutes after the top of the hour. But if you'd like my guided meditation, I'll be guiding you in an eco-psychology focused walking meditation, where you'll either be moving the body in a walking pattern, looking outside or looking to the more than human world, or actually, if you can take me in your device outside, we'll be doing walking not to go anywhere. So walking as a movement practice to be embedded with your body in the place where it is. And this is a practice that is often is also attached to the work that Dacher Keltner does from the University of Berkeley's Greater Good Institute, and he calls these wonder walks, which is where you're just focusing on wonder and presence of your body in the more than human or natural world. So go ahead and make your choice here, whether you'd like to go off into your own domestic sphere and do a mindfulness meditation. And the invitation is whatever you're doing, you're just bringing your full attention to the sensations of your body in that physical practice, just there. And when you notice the mind wanders off, you come back to the physical sensation of the dishes, the laundry, the walking. So if you're going off on your own, feel free to go off on your own. If you're staying with me, now I'm going to invite you to stand. I won't be standing and walking just so that I'm a little bit more solid in my invitation to you, but inviting you to stand now. And if you can, bring yourself and your device into the out of doors or the outside the human construct, if that's safe and available for you. If that's not safe and available, feel free to move your attention to a window if you have one nearby, or open a window so that you can feel the breath, the sensation. And you'll come to this standing place. Bring your whole awareness to the standing body. And then opening the eyes to this, I use David Abrams' term, the more than human world, right? So there's perhaps noticing what is in the visual sphere, those beings around you, noticing the air around you, the breath, and feeling yourself as part of this place. You are not distinct, you are not separate from, but you are deeply embedded and part of this interrelational, complex ecosystem that you inhabit. And that with each step, your awareness is deepening your place in the participation of this dynamic, complex, animate ecosystem that you are embodied in. So bringing your breath and awareness now to the action of walking. So noticing a step and breath, noticing the textures under your foot with the next step and breath. And letting your breath set the pace for your walking. You're not going in any destination. And feeling a deep gratitude for the ground that holds you with each step. Beginning to anchor yourself in the awareness and perhaps letting wonder, that open mindset that we practiced last month, that beginner's mind that leads you into a place of wonder and curiosity. Letting yourself inhabit this spaciousness of wonder as you practice each step. Grateful in this body that moves you. Grateful in the air that allows your breath to nourish each cell of this body that is walking on the earth. Noticing your body's interrelationship perhaps with the green bodies that take in your out-breath. They breathe in your out-breath. And your in-breath is their out-breath. This deep interrelationship of your body and all those green bodies in the shared breath that is the basis of our healthy atmosphere, of climate itself. And we'll take just a few more steps and breaths here before your slow walking will bring you back to your device, back to your computer or camera, back to this walking back into the circle that is all of us, all around the world, coming together into this practice. For those of you who might have been practicing in your domestic sphere, this is the time now to call yourself back, to walk mindfully back, to join us in the circle. And just concluding that meditation here, bringing yourself fully present. And we'll now move in our last 10 minutes of this practice together to just start doing some meaning making. How does self-awareness move us into climate action? And so I like these 3 steps of we notice the inner weather, right? So how is the physical body? What is the inner landscape, the weather of the body like in there? How do we notice the interoception of our own emotions, our own thoughts? We moved into that stilling zazen meditation, which is a great way to help self-regulate the body in that inner ground of judgment that can hopefully make us less reactive in conflict, less ability to stay with the challenges. And then we moved that into action, into our walking or domestic spheres. And how do we act with integrity? How do we really keep our values and acknowledge our own blind spots, right? But stay grounded in that equity and care. So now I'd love to stop the share here. And of course, these slides will be, I'll add them to our Slack channel where I add in the recordings as well. But now I'd love to open up the conversation. And here's a quick question. Does anybody have a preference on whether these reactions are recorded or not? If you're saying it might be really great to have other people from beyond this circle hear about our responses, our curiosities. But if anybody says, I'd prefer my responses not to be recorded, feel free just to add that into the chat window or send me your preference, whether it's keep the recording on or let's turn off the recording here. And we'll just do some meaning making and hear from how was that experience for you? How do you see this relating to your climate work in our last few minutes here? Leave the recording on. Thanks, Bob. Okay, great. All right, so here is the opening. So we can just unmute yourself and we'll just have a dialogue, or feel free to raise a hand if you had a particular noticing, or now we're just doing this. How does self-awareness help us in our climate work is kind of the exploration conversation we're in now. So if you have something to add, or if you had a curiosity or noticing about our practice itself that you wanted to share, this is the time to do that. And you can raise a hand icon or raise a physical hand or just come off mute. Yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that was automatically volunteering. Well, one thing I noticed that I really appreciated and was surprising was I have a stressful situation I'm dealing with, a medical situation with a family member. And when doing the various aspects that we've done, so various practices we've done so far, I noticed that even when I would have some intrusive thoughts about that situation, they were not having the anxiety producing effect on my body once I was in any of the practices, that the thoughts would come and it would have much less anxiety effect. So that was lovely.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and hopefully maybe some relief as well from some of that stress you've been holding.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is really quite the point, but I want to thank you. This is nice. I have been doing mindfulness meditation for a couple of years, but the last 6 months, my circumstances have changed, and I have been missing the monthly retreat that the people I work with
Mm,
have always held, and it was really nice to get back to it. I love a walking meditation. It was really great, even if it was just around the front yard. I usually have a very nice place to do it with their monthly, but the counting to four is much easier than 10. 10,
mm,
but my mind would always wander sometime before I got to 10. But four
mhm.
really worked. I felt sharp.
Great. Yeah, we found, yeah, that four can be a little more accessible for some people. I'm glad, Bob, and welcome back. I'm glad you had a return of your mindfulness practices. Yeah, yeah, Morgan, what are you thinking, friend?
Hello. Yeah, that was really interesting for me. And so I felt compelled to roll out my yoga mat and lie on my back on the
Hmm.
floor, um, and close my eyes, which is not something that I would do generally during the day.
Mm, mm,
Um, and so I realized that that's what my body really needed to focus on myself and take care of myself this afternoon.
mm,
Um, and that made me think of inner compassion, and of course it's so important that for us to be able to care for others or our planet,
mm,
then
mm,
we first need to have that inner compassion with ourselves.
mm,
So I guess that's sort of something that came up for me as I was lying there listening to your
mm.
soothing voice.
Yeah. And this is one of the like most important pieces of climate work is how do we stay in for the long term? Because as we know, even if we went completely net zero today, we know that the impacts that are being felt today from the heat waves in Europe to the crazy heat waves in India and all over the world, one of many impacts that are being felt. But how do we make sure that our oxygen mask is on and tend to ourselves really well so that we can tend to world well and continue this work? So I love that you gave yourself permission to do Shavasana. And like, I just need a rest. Yeah, that's so vital. Dan, what are you thinking, friend?
Thank you, first of all, Nikita. Another amazing session. It's good stuff. But similar to you, Deborah, I have a lot of very stressful life circumstances, kind of like a whiplash of them in the last week. And then on top of all the macro stuff going on in the world and trying to navigate a very fraught time on both levels. You know what I mean? It's so I'm a semi-professional fisherman, whatever. But when you take people out on the ocean for the first time, it's very important first and foremost to teach them, 3 points of contact. When it gets rough out there, you have to have 2 feet on the ground and one hand on a rail at all times. That's the most important
Mm,
bottom line thing, and that's what this exercise reminds me of. When the
mm,
world's just spinning and it's just like one thing after another, and you can't get your handle on whatever you need to focus on, like to be able
mm,
to have 3 points of contact from an internal perspective and just be able to be like, okay, I just need to make sure that there's both feet on the ground and one hand on the rail. Let's start there. That's where I went with this. So thank you, Nikita.
what a brilliant like bringing together of a great metaphor of like we are kind of on a boat on a stormy sea, and then these 3 points of contact of like body centering, presence in action. Mm, nice, Dan. No surprise, your elegant mind that brings that all together. Anybody else with a last thought or question in our last minute here of being together?
I would like to add my reflection.
Yeah.
While doing this exercise, I felt like I hold up a lot of emotion near my throat and
Mm-mm,
shoulders. So
mm-mm,
a lot of times it feels like my head is so heavy and I have to move in directions to make it free. So I realized that I have to make sure that I do not hold up emotions more so that I become easier. And also the climate anxiety, it does affect me because I've been like thinking about these things from a long time and consuming all the information. It did create that anxiety, but when I'm participating in groups like this, it definitely feels that something can be done about it, and you're not alone thinking about it. And, yeah, there are ways to get through this as well, although it is a huge problem. Yeah.
I think that there's this third body, or you could say multiplistic, pluralistic body that is all of us when we get together all around the world, but we're coming together into shared cognitive space, like a shared psyche of the communal body, right? That comes. And I feel like that's one of the, and thank you, that was a perfect segue for closing today. But one of the most important reasons that I feel like we need to practice in groups together around is one of our most resilient aspects of climate, right? Is that climate is hard work, and we don't always have safe groups of people to talk about and to bring that knowledge of the anxiety that produces the ongoing stress of life, but that bringing ourselves together into this shared discourse, it's like everybody helps hold the load, and suddenly the load gets lighter for all of us. So thank you for naming that, Sujanya, because I feel like this, in Buddhism, there's the Buddha, the Sangha, and the Dharma. And the Sangha is the group of people, right, that do the thing together. It's like part of that important sort of three-legged stool, if you will. And I feel like that's true with our climate work as well. So I just want to thank all of you for arriving today, to thank you for being this community that practices together, and that we work on our shared resilience and tending ourselves as a form of climate work, right? So when we bring our full mindfulness. So I just encourage you to try these three practices. And I wanted to leave you with what I call the pocket practice of it, which is like, how do you condense this down into something you can do that's small enough that fits right into your pocket? And so I wanted to give you that snapshot that you can try out with yourself, which is 3 breaths of a body scan, 3 breaths or 4 breaths in your Zazen counting, 3 breaths in a walking meditation as you get from point A to point B. So you can do all that in about 2 minutes. So if you have a moment, you're going into your next Zoom, you're going into your next study group, you're going into your next session, you're going into, you're in a transition in your work, you might just try out these little 3-part practice, right? Body scan, centering mind, moving meditation in presence as a way to just support whatever you do in the world. So I offer that to you. We'll have this recording that'll be available for people who didn't arrive. So you're welcome to share that out in the world. And you're always welcome to invite people from the Terra.do and beyond community to practice with us every first Monday of the month at 9 a.m. So it's an open invitation and free for all. So just really grateful. Thank you so much for arriving. Thank you for practicing with me and each other. And I hope to see you next month. We'll be doing the last one of our presencing here, presencing as a focus from the IDGs. So hope I get to see you then. Have a great rest of your day, your night, your evening. I hope I get to see you soon.